Okay. 1, 2, 3. All right. We're getting ready to start here shortly. I'd like to thank everybody from joining us here. We've jumped over to Zoom over Blue Jeans. So we're still getting acclimated to that. Before we get started, just like to thank M.W. Gary for being our virtual sponsor for 2022. So they're paying the fees that we have for Zoom. We have a little bit more control over what we can do with Zoom as far as muting people and the recording and stuff. So we made that decision last month on the fly that we needed to make that available. So we did that. Our next, go ahead. Okay. Let's see here. I thought I had set this up that everybody could join automatically, but I still have to admit everybody in from the waiting room. So let's get everybody in here real quick. So once again, we'd just like to thank M.W. Gary for being the virtual speaker sponsor for 2022. Appreciate everybody's support, in attending our events, and those who can make donations. We really appreciate that. Our next month will be a virtual luncheon as well. So at this time, I'd like to turn everything over to our guest speaker today, Ryan Fairbanks, RWP. Ryan and I met with the potential of Ryan Pankwitz and I speaking at the AEPL convention back in June, which schedules just didn't allow me to be able to do that. So we didn't move forward, but we made that great connection. And that's the one thing that, this group has done a very good job, I think, of connecting people and making everybody a resource to each other. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn everything over to Ryan. And so I just ask everybody to please mute their mics on their computers and also their phone, just in case they don't get the computer mute. We don't hear the phone calls or the phone ringing. So at this time, Ryan, it's all on you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Johnny. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm new to learning about IRWA, but interested and excited. I like what I've seen as far as education events and how a lot of that seems to mesh with things that we've done at AAPL. So excited to be involved and to be with and get to know you folks today. Johnny, thanks for having me here. I really appreciate it, and just want to share some insights from my 15 years as a land professional, things to help members of your community lead, network, and communicate better. So to start off, who am I and why I care to be involved and engaged with what you're doing? As a land professional, 15 years ago, I had a conversation with a landman that had moved into town. I live in a small town of Vernal, Utah, so in the Rocky Mountains, the northeast corner of Utah, right over against Colorado. And this landman, his name is John Whiteside, had just moved to town from Texas and was starting up a land service business, doing title research for oil and gas companies and looking for help. And my brother-in-law started working for him, then my wife started working for him, then I started working for him. And so long story short, over the course of 15 years of land work, I've learned quite a bit of the different disciplines for doing land work, and was having a conversation with a friend who said, sounds like you've been at this a while. You've picked up some experiences and you probably have something to share maybe you should start a mastermind group. And I said, oh yeah, tell me more about that. And so we dug into that, and I started doing that in June of 2020. The best time in the world you can think of to start a new business, right? Right in the middle of a pandemic. But what my experience as a land professional gave me was the opportunity to know that I could learn to do new things, and I could learn how to serve other people and help them accomplish the things that they're looking to accomplish. And so I started the Landman mastermind groups, and those are based on skill development and helping people improve their mindset and their skills so that they can be better prepared to weather the next recession. In 15 years in the land business, any of you who've been around for that long in this business, and most of you who've been around even just over the past 2 or 3 years, have seen our industry go through a recession with cutbacks and wells being shut down and projects being shut down. And you know what that's like to face that uncertainty of, am I going to have work? The conversation of starting mastermind groups kind of coincided with a student at Montana Tech who was in their land program. And in his senior year, just entering into his senior year, another John, not John Whiteside, but a new young land professional coming into the industry, who asked the question, when I graduate, is there even going to be work for me? And so that opened up a conversation of me having the opportunity to talk to him and just kind of gather a group of other people to rally around him and help him, encourage him, support him in finishing his schooling. And he graduated a little over a year ago and has been working in the oil and gas industry for over a year now. And that's the kind of thing that we do in the Landman Mastermind groups, is walk with people in the journey that they're on to develop their skills and allow them to transition, whatever that means for where you are and the work that you want to do in this industry. So that's why I care. Today we want to talk about leadership, networking, and communication. And I certainly would like to connect with each of you. I appreciate your time and your attention to me being able to share a few thoughts today. So first off, leadership. There are 4 things that I'd like to kind of touch on with leadership. You know, we don't always get the training that we need when we get a new leadership role. Who here is in a leadership role right now? And I can't see everybody. So feel free to unmute yourself and just pipe up. Who here is in a leadership role of managing or leading at least a few other people?
I am.
Okay, so we have at least one other leader here in the group. Alex, I saw you put your hand up.
Yeah, I am as well. I'm Larry.
Okay. What does it mean to be in a leadership role? Go ahead and give me kind of your feedback a little bit. What does it mean to you?
I'd say, can you guys hear me? I'd say setting, one big thing is setting examples for how things should be done.
Okay.
Motivating people.
I guess trying to always be there to help people through things, that type of thing. Kind of make sure that they know that you're there, and to try to anticipate, especially when they're maybe a little reluctant to ask for help. If you could see that they need help, to try to, in a manner that doesn't make them uncomfortable, to help them out.
Sure, good. Appreciate those insights. All right. The other question is, who here would like to be in a leadership role? that's not currently in a leadership role. So consider that. Maybe you would be good at leadership. Maybe you're reluctant to be a leader, but maybe you're needed as a leader, especially if you've been at this business for more than 3, 4, 5 years. You've got some experience, some knowledge, the technical skills that would allow you to lead other people in using those technical skills. So one of the things, first point on leading others is there's a guy named Jeff Brown that has a podcast called the Read to Lead podcast. And his tagline for that podcast is leaders are readers and readers are leaders. And I found that to be true. Most of the leaders that I've had the opportunity to interact with read in their industry, but they also read other things outside their industry that allow them to interact with a wide variety of people. Because, as a right-of-way agent, you're interacting with the public. You're interacting with people who may or may not be familiar with the particular kind of right-of-way that you are trying to acquire or discuss with them. And so having that broad base of a variety of knowledge and experience allows you to speak with them with things that they're interested in, things that they care about, and relate to them and relate with their frame of reference, the things that you're trying to accomplish. So that's been very valuable. Something that I've implemented is that I read a lot of books, a lot of different books and a variety of books, and I walk through books with other people to help them get more out of applying the things that they are reading. It's more than just reading something for pleasure and then moving on, but to learn something from it. So I encourage you to be a reader, whether that's reading title documents. I mean, that's obviously a big part of a lot of our careers, is reading and understanding the technical documents and contracts that apply to our work. But read books, because that'll expand your mindset. Second point, gain experience by doing. Certainly, we can learn an amount of things through books or through formal education.
Very excited about it.
You're excited about formal education? Maybe that was something you didn't mean to unmute. But yeah, gaining experience through doing implementing the skills that we learn through formal or informal education. As we gain that experience, then we can be in a position as a leader to help coach, guide other people in walking through and in applying those principles and skills. Then coaching and mentoring. Most of us are familiar with the general form of coaching as applies to sports. Whether it's college or professional sports, a coach is somebody who pushes their players to develop skills, to magnify those skills. I'm reminded of the story of talking about to a professional football team and saying, "Gentlemen, this is a football." It's always good to review the basics, to come back to the basics and the foundation of the skills that are needed to accomplish the job you're trying to accomplish. And as we review those things, we get better at them, but we're also able to lead and guide other people. And that's where, the difference between coaching and mentoring for me is a coach is somebody who maybe has been on the field, but also has other technical skills that they can guide you in, but they don't have to be on the field in order to give you that kind of guidance. They're just on the path with you in a way that they can ask questions, they can push you to grow and develop. Whereas a mentor, I see more as somebody who's in the trenches, who's either done it or they're currently doing the thing that you're trying to learn and grow. Or, as a leader, being a mentor in a way that in the skills that you have worked to develop and ways that you have worked. And then the fourth thing as a leader is just exploring, being able to walk that path with people wherever they are, explore the opportunities, explore the possibilities of what if, what would happen if we go down this path. And sometimes as a leader, it's our job to help steer people away from pitfalls and dangers if they go a certain direction. In a negotiation, you might have an opportunity to go eminent domain for the right of way that you're trying to accomplish. We don't usually like to go that route unless we really have to. And so, especially with a junior agent, to be able to have that conversation and say, yeah, you got eminent domain in your back pocket. You can fall back on it if you really have to, but you don't want that to be step one or step two of your negotiation. You certainly want to be able to explore other options and help them brainstorm, thinking through, okay, how can we explore a different option that's a win-win for these people? Just briefly, I'll touch on project management. That's generally a part of leadership. Sometimes it can be a big part of leadership where you're breaking down the project to individual tasks and assigning those tasks to other team members or tracking due dates for those tasks. Certainly another part of leadership that can be expanded on. And in the right of way, in the oil and gas industry, formal project management is not something that I've seen implemented very much, simply because most of the people who are acting, working in the industry are independent contractors. So I'm curious, and Johnny, I don't know, are you able to do a poll on this Zoom meeting?
I'm not sure. I've never looked into the features of that.
Okay. Well, I'm just curious, how many people here are independent contractors versus employees of a company that's not your own company? With the registrations, do you have any kind of bearing on that as far as how many are independent contractors versus employees?
I think just from my personal knowledge, majority of the people are employees.
Okay.
I don't know about Mark and Alex as far as their status is.
So Johnny, Kathy said we could do a poll through the chat.
Can you?
Well, everyone could just type in like
Okay.
employee or kind of independent.
Okay.
Let's see here. Open chat.
Yeah, kind of watch that for a minute as people type in, but looks like the few I've seen so far, mostly employees. That's good to know. So appreciate that as you put in there. There's some independents, that's good. But as an employee or as an independent contractor, project management is a part of leadership. So that's what I really wanted to touch on there. And that, our industry can benefit from training and information about formal project management, even certification and training through PMI is one that I'm familiar with, and study. I'm not currently certified with the Project Management Institute, but I do have their manual on project management, and that's something that I study and utilize in my work. So something else on leadership to take it a little further is to look at Bruce Tuckman's team phases. And this is team development. When you're forming a team or pulling people into a team, just to be aware of the phases of development where your team is. And I first learned about these phases of development as a Boy Scout leader going through leadership training, but has been very valuable and helpful for me in recognizing with my team, the people that I'm pulling together and helping to develop. The first stage of team development is forming, and that's where you come together, you form the team. And that changes as people come and leave on a team. You go through this cycle again every time there's a new element to the team, whether that's a new client or a new employee or a new contractor on the team. You kind of start over with forming. Everybody's getting used to each other. And sometimes the second step of that, storming, is a little easier than other times. Sometimes it really is a storm where you have different personalities and conflicts and difference of opinion on how to do things. Who here has been in an environment where the storming phase was pretty tumultuous? I know I've been in a situation or two that, at least for a little bit, getting used to the different personalities and the way people handle things can be kind of a storm. And sometimes you can get past that. Sometimes it wears on for quite a while. But what you want to do is try and move on from that phase to norming, where you have normal practices, standard practices and procedures. Not that it needs to be strictly controlled, but you want to have a normal way of operating that you can get used to on the team, so that everybody on the team is kind of working together, and this is how we do things, and this is who handles what at which step of the process. And when I'm done with my step, this is who I hand it to and how I hand it to them so they can best pick it up and move forward with it. That's performing. When you get in that norming phase to the point that you're performing well, that there doesn't need to be a lot of leadership, direction, guidance as to who's doing what and when they do it and how they hand it off to other people. That well-oiled machine, so to speak, where it just works. We need a new right-of-way from point A to point B, hand it to the team, title happens, contracts happen, people get paid, all of those things just happen the way they need to happen without a lot of direction. That's performing. And then as we see from project to project, eventually the project wraps up or the team disbands or somebody moves on to something different. And so you have that adjourning phase or the mourning phase where you kind of miss and regret not having that same connection in work in the team. And so those are all important phases just to recognize what phase your business is in business development and in your leadership. To move on to networking, first of all, I want to talk about kind of more formal networking opportunities. So that might mean, an industry conference, or it could be, something like this. A webinar might be more of a formal networking where there's a format and a structure for how you interact with each other and get to know each other. A few others that I'm familiar with, there's a group called BNI, Business Networking International, that the focus of their organization is to bring people together from different industries and help you come to know, like, and trust each other and give each other referral business. So that's an example of a formal networking organization that has a structure and a specific format in the way they do that. More to move into informal networking. And I think of things like service organizations, Lions Club, Salvation Army, things like that, where you get the opportunity to interact with other people, but the purpose of the organization isn't networking. Networking just happens by the interactions that you go through in the process of whatever that organization is. So service organizations, associations like IRWA and AAPL, and on the title side of things, the National Association of Land Title or Lease Title Analysts is one, or Division Order Analyst is another one. Those kinds of formal associations, but the interaction within those associations can be more informal. The same thing for events that come together. Does IRWA have any kind of like clay pigeon shooting or golf scramble kinds of things that your chapter does?
Personally, here in 88, we haven't done a lot of social stuff. We've had one or two way back. We were planning to do more once we became a chapter, but kind of COVID kind of squashed all that. But that's something that we're planning once we get past this situation that we're in.
Okay, good. Yeah, great opportunities to just, again, come to know, like, and trust each other and realize who that is a resource, when you have different challenges or struggles, projects that, sometimes go off the rails a little bit and you go, this person that I met when we were playing golf, they might really be able to help me with this situation. Maybe I ought to give them a call or see if I can engage them, have them be involved in my project a little bit. What other things are you guys involved with? Kind of informally, what hobbies and things like that are you involved with that give you opportunities to network? Feel free to unmute yourself and participate here.
I wish I could say social drinking, but I don't think people would shine a bright light on that one. But I'm a member of some sports stuff and weightlifting groups and whatnot. Not a lot of jogging groups for anyone who's seen me in person, but.
Thanks for sharing. Yeah, even at events and conferences, you said social drinking. Yeah, that's informal networking, just an opportunity to get to know people and have a conversation.
Yeah, I mean, golf activities like that.
Okay. Thanks, Alex. Who else? What hobbies do you enjoy? What things do you like to do with your family or in your community?
Yeah, I think prior to COVID, I was involved in a lot of different industry groups that weren't directly related to right away, but they might be oil and gas so it was nice to be able to go to those different events. And of course, that changed in 2020. I think you pose a question of what did you do before COVID and what you want to do after it.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing to add too is informal networking can be church groups or even
Certainly.
or helping with kids' activities. Or I know I do activities with my kids, like father, daughter, father, son, and meet people that way too. So I found also that can be a way of informal.
Yeah, certainly.
Oh, this is Maria. I put something in the chat, but sorry, I clicked something on my computer and I don't even know where the meeting went, but we network at our board meetings and team meetings. Pennsylvania One calls like one big happy family, and we like to eat and drink together too. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so with networking, whether it's formal or informal, one of the things to look at is, is it just social, or do you actually look at that experience, that opportunity as a way to connect with somebody that you want to connect with? So in the little diagram here, you have the person in blue in the middle there, and say they want to connect to that person in green up at the top. Well, they might have some kind of association or some space where they're in the same space with that person, but they don't really know them. They don't know each other. They haven't developed any kind of trust yet. But there are other people with strong connections. If you look at, say, this person in the pink here has a strong connection with both the person in the middle and the person at the top. Who is it that you want to connect with, and who else knows them? And this is not, revolutionary to anybody, I'm sure, in our age of social media and, LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter and everything else. I think we get this concept, right? Who do you want to connect with? Who do they know that you already know pretty well that can help you connect with that group? So be thinking about that, and actually within your circle, oh yeah, this person is kind of in this environment that really is where I want to go. Maybe it's an author, maybe it's somebody in sports that you'd really like to connect with. Well, who do you know that knows them? And so I just challenge you to kind of set yourself a couple of goals of people who you'd like to get to know, and look for people that can connect you to that person. 2 years ago, I never thought I'd have the connections I have today. But through networking and getting to know other people in the mastermind groups, for example, it's not really a book club, but we study books together and learn together to grow in different ways. And in many ways, I've wanted to connect with the authors of books that have been valuable and helpful to me. And so I looked at, okay, do I know these authors? Well, I've read their books, but they don't know me from the man in the moon. How can I get to know these authors? How can I engage with them? What if I invite them to come and talk to our group after we've spent a month or two reading their book and discussing it? And so that opened the door to, okay, who do I know that knows them? Who can connect me to have that conversation and just see if they're willing to come and visit the group? And as a result of that, over the last year, 75% of the authors whose books we've studied have shown up to our group and engaged with the group to have a conversation and take that a step further. So that's really about all I wanted to touch on there for networking. Let's move on to communication. How are we doing for time, Johnny?
We're doing good. We're doing good.
Okay. So kind of wrap up this with communication though, first of all, cell phones, pretty much everybody has one. We use it to communicate on a phone call, through text message. We use them to access social media. There are more channels of communication now than there ever have been. With that in mind, I would like to invite all of you to communicate directly with me. So I'll provide some contact information here at the end, but certainly if you want to have a conversation or just chat or continue this conversation, first off, I'll give you my cell phone number, and you're welcome to text me or give me a call. I might not be able to answer your call at the moment, but I'll reply to you as soon as I'm available. Text message, I'm more available that way, but you can reach me at 970-773-4740. And I'll put that up on the screen here at the end as well. But
Yeah, Ryan, also, we do supply the sign-in sheet with everybody's contact information after the
great.
event. So,
okay, appreciate that. Communication is just one of the tools that we need to do our business, right? We communicate with landowners, with our clients. It's just important that we have communication, and that communication goes both ways. We have an opportunity to interact back and forth with each other, and not really just broadcast. But so I appreciate that. Those of you who've been willing to put messages in the chat and engage here and share your insights and feedback a little bit. Thank you. With communication, there are always ways that we can learn and grow, continue to improve, expand, outreach, but also be more responsive to people when they send us messages. So just encourage that. And then here to wrap up. So I am on LinkedIn. Ryan Fairbanks RPL is the easiest way to find me on LinkedIn. There's my cell number, 970-773-4740. And best email to reach me at for land work is landrunnerinc@gmail.com. So LinkedIn, I am on Twitter. I don't interact a lot there, but a little bit. And some of you may be more engaged on Twitter than on LinkedIn or Facebook or other things. So there's a different channel to connect with me there. You certainly can visit my website, landmanmastermind.com, and listen to the Landman Pivot podcast. So on all major podcast players, just Landman Pivot, you should be able to find me. So I appreciate it. Thanks for your time, and any questions, anything that you folks would like to ask me as we wrap up here.
I think the one thing I'd like to add, and you probably kind of covered it, touched it too, is any of these groups that you participate in, you're volunteering to help. I'm not just saying that for our group, but any of those groups, I think you get down in the weeds a little bit more, and you build up a stronger relationship with the people that you may have sat beside at a luncheon, or talked with for 5 minutes at a social event. But once you get more involved in any group, if it's a professional group or a religious group or just a social group, I think you get a different perspective.
Yeah, I agree. Certainly, when you have that, when you take that opportunity, you put yourself out there and say, yeah, I'm willing to help out with leadership or helping with what the group is doing. I've had that experience with AAPL. 2 years ago, they said, hey, we're looking for people on our committee to help with different aspects of the association. And who's interested, and what groups are you interested in? So I raised my hand and said, yeah, I'd be interested in the education for our annual meeting committee. And that's how I really came to know Johnny, was as we were working on getting speakers for the annual convention.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments or things they would just like to add to today's presentation? Okay, well, we'd like to thank Ryan for his time today. That's kind of the beauty of the remote stuff, is that we can have people from around the country and around the state on this call, and it's just it's good to be able to get together. We're looking forward to our next month. We'll be at a virtual luncheon as well, and same with March, but we're looking to get back in person in April if possible. We're looking for speakers for the rest of the year. We've got next month's picked out. So we're looking for either topics or speakers to chime in, and they can either be virtual or in person. So you can contact me on that. If not, we'd like to thank everybody for, if nobody else has any comments, we'd like to thank everybody else for joining us today.
Thanks very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for your time. I'll let everybody get off work and off this call and get back to work.
You have a good one.
Okay.
Thank you.